Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time for that weekend wrap. So without further ado, let's get into the 4 cards that I remember being on this weekend. If there was any others, but I might have to check them another time. But I guess the first place to start is the Triple G versus Ryota Morata fight card in Saitama, Japan. That card was really good. Going through a couple of the fights, I remember, Yoshino versus Ito was a really fun fight to start the card off. Junto Nakatani did his thing as well in the chief support. And if we go to the main event itself, I didn't see the first 2 fights the first 2 rounds of that fight. I did fall asleep. I was in a bit of a napping state at that particular point in time. So missed the first 2, so I have to go back and watch those in a moment actually. But from what I pretty much saw the fight, like Morata was really sort of bringing it to Triple G to start with, was really working the body quite well. Triple G was visibly affected by those body shots, but he was a bit slow and ponderous. It seemed like the legs weren't necessarily there, but he managed to sort of keep himself in range. Morata wasn't hitting and moving and sticking the jab and like applying pressure that way. He was pretty much going for it, I guess, thinking that if Sergey Derevyanchenko really took it to him, that maybe that's the way to sort of beat him in his sort of advanced age. But I mean, Triple G rallied back, and I feel like from round 5 onwards, he was pretty much more in control of the fight. The shots he was landing were sort of taking their toll a bit more, but Morata showed that he's got a good chin, very granite chin, very solid warrior. Like didn't want to quit. The writing seemed like it was on the wall from about the 6th round. As soon as he got his mouthpiece knocked out of his mouth, that's when it seemed like, oh, this is kind of only going to go one way moving forward. But credit to him, he stayed in the fight, rallied back. He had sort of short 20 to 30 second bursts towards the end of the rounds, absorbing a lot of punishment and coming back at Triple G when he was sort of tiring. It was only right that he was going to gas at some point. He looked very sort of gassy within the fight, like it was taking its toll. But, he hasn't been in the ring for, nearly about 16 months now. And Morata hasn't been in the ring for closer to 28. So, it was evidential that, one of them wasn't going to necessarily be able to keep up the mad pace that was being set. But overall, I think I predicted the 8th or the 9th round that Triple G would get the knockout, and he proved me right. Luckily, Morata got knocked down in the 9th, and the corner threw in the towel, said that was it, that was enough, he didn't to see anymore. To be honest, I think he would have carried on fighting if they didn't, but it would have only gone one way. So it was a very good stoppage, and now Triple G, I guess, gets that Canelo trilogy fight in September, unless there's a madness that happens that we don't know about, which stops that fight from being able to happen. But yeah, so well done to him. The next card, I guess I'll talk about it briefly because I only saw the Michaela Mayer and Jennifer Hahn fight. I didn't see any of the undercard because I was asleep at the time. So I need to go back and watch a couple of those other fights. However, overall, I would say that Michaela Mayer did very well against Hahn. She came a lot more spry and sort of game than I feel like she did in the Katie Taylor fight, where she was a bit more on the back foot, sort of trying to be a bit more negative and pot shotty. This one, it looked like she was trying to bring the fight to Michaela Mayer a little bit, which was giving Mayer the chance to catch her in between a lot of the shots. She was leading and ending most combinations and exchanges, so I felt like she did well on that side. She got cut for the very first time though, so now that's something that she's going to have to be mindful of. And it's funny because she got cut even though she was actually leading with the head quite a bit in the Hamadouche fight. So I guess it just goes to show that when you're the person that's leading those charges, it's a lot less likely that you're going to end up with damage at the end of it. But that's for another time. Overall, I did say that I thought that she might be able to get the late stoppage, but would definitely win the fight on the UD. So I managed to get that one right. Obviously, she in the ninth round, it very much looked like she was going for the knockout and almost did get it, because she did have Han in some trouble towards the end of that round. And I can, yeah, if there was another minute in that round, I could see Han would have either hit the deck or the ref would have jumped in. She managed to survive that and then compose herself and survive the 10th, but she was in some real problems there. So in her post fight, she said, well, she wants 3-minute rounds for the women. I guess if you want to stop having people call it women's boxing, then you have to make the rules exactly the same as the men, so that you can't call it anything other. Because, quick tangent, UFC, they don't say women's UFC or women's MMA and men's MMA, they just say MMA, because the rules are the same across the board. If you want that to be the change, you've got to change the language that you use and implement in those fights. But yeah, moving back on, she did well, so congrats to her. I know Alicia Baumgardner's got her fight coming up this Saturday coming. I will talk about that at a later date. I'm not particularly happy about it, but it is a replacement opponent, and I'll talk about more of that moving forward. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Michaela Mayer next up. Right, so now I think I'm going to go to the Showtime card, the PBC card. I didn't watch the I think his name is Perella, but I could be wrong. The guy that's trained by Roy Jones Jr. Now I remember he got a draw against Tony Harrison in his last fight. I think it's like April last year. Now I was watching some of it, but then I skipped forward because like I wanted to get to the two main fights, which is what I was there to see. But I saw that he got another, I think it was a split decision draw again. So it seems like this guy, they just don't want to give decisions to, because if he's getting draws, that probably means that he's winning. But I'll watch that fight again another time and maybe sort of see if I change my opinion. But yeah, Tony Harrison, Sergio Garcia. Now I did say in my prediction video that Harrison pretty much will show that he's got levels on Garcia if he's got anything left. And he showed quite convincingly that, yeah, Garcia's just not at those races yet. Now I like Garcia, especially from when he put the beating on Cheeseman, and he just went from strength to strength, and he's been over to America twice now. He lost to Sebastian Fundora in his last fight, and now he's lost to Tony Harrison in this fight, but it's not like he's getting, dominated and beat down, and he's just, I mean, Fundora, like, ultimately, that's going to be a very hard fight for anyone to win comfortably, unless they're a really, really big 154-pound guy. But Harrison, I mean, there's no disgrace in losing that fight either. Former world champion, like, technical as anything. A former student of the Kronk style, like, just a very good pure boxer. Like, there's no shame in that. So, well done to Garcia for taking the challenge, but Harrison showed his levels as I predicted he would. Now, personally, this is my fight of the night. Like, Erickson Lubin and Sebastian Fundora. Like, to me, it had sort of everything that you want in a classic matchup. It was, it was cruiserweight versus giant. It was David versus Goliath. It was like boxer puncher against boxer puncher, but like one's pressuring and the other one's more of a pure boxer puncher. So it was, and it was the intrigue of, will Lubin's chin hold up? Like, because that's been one of his so-called weaknesses, or people feel like he's got his chin will get him in trouble. And can the giant be hurt? Can he be toppled because he hasn't been hurt before? It had everything. You had all those narratives coming into the fight, and then you got the fight itself, which was just a great fight to me. Anyway, I think Lubin got knocked down with an uppercut in the second, I think it was the second round he got knocked down, second or third, and it looked like the writing was on the wall from there. But he managed to stay in the fight. He rallied, but like visibly his face was just getting worse and worse as the rounds went on. Like both his eyes were puffed up, looked like his nose was broken, like his lip was swollen as well. He didn't look in a good place. But come I think it was it the 6th or the 7th round? No, it was the 7th round. He rallied, and like, he implemented a beating on Fundora and managed to knock Fundora down, like first time in his career. With there wasn't a huge amount of time left in the round, but his mouthpiece dropped out and everything. And I remember the ref was like, "Stay there, hurry up and give us the mouthpiece." But he just picked the one off the floor, said, "They put that back in because they're taking too long," and let man carry on in the fight. And ultimately, I think that round stopped, and he managed to, obviously he went through that round, then he managed to pick up the pace and start doing what he was doing again for round 8. But he was in some real big trouble in that one, and it could have been his first loss. It definitely showed that there's ways to beat the giant, and Erickson Lubin did show that and expose that. Round 8 though, he's pretty much gassed. He started sitting on the ropes a bit too much. He was taking shots. He was trying to throw back, but he was sort of getting hit. He rallied a couple of times and managed to land some really good shots, but then walked back to the corner at the end, and his team just decided to call it off. Said like it was too much damage, can't really carry on, can't continue. Someone in the crowd weren't happy because they threw their ice at him from the and Coach Cunningham was not happy about that. I found it entertaining, but yeah, I mean, Lubin could have still gone out and continued. He still had a little bit of fight in him, but like he just wasn't getting any better. And I feel like he had his last salvo. I didn't think there was be much left. So the corner probably did the right thing. He's now just got to regroup and work his way up to those title contentions again. And those belts are going to become fragmented. So I've got no doubts in my mind that he will pick up one of them in the future, you know, sort of in the next 2.5, 3 years. He's only 26. He's got plenty of years left in him. And if he fights Fundora again, I wouldn't be surprised if he would learn how to actually deal with him, because he was getting all the right instructions in the corner. He just wasn't implementing it all the time. So, you know, good. Congrats to both guys. And this is definitely a case of neither guy losing any stock as far as I'm concerned, because both of them I will watch again, like quite happily, and you know, invest my time into them. So when you put on these good fights and, you know, you have these 50-50s, like the people will come. And yeah, this was definitely one that delivered. So that was my fight of the day personally for me. All right, if I go to the zone card real quick, so there was the 3 main fights on the card. So there was Marlon Esparza and Naoki Fujioka. Now, I said previously that this fight would be a situation where Esparza, if she wants to box, she'll be able to outbox Fujioka. But if she starts getting tired, Fujioka, she starts slow, but she picks it up and gets stronger as the rounds go on. And Esparza fades very badly. The same thing happened, although this time she decided not to try and sort of stay on the outside, box and move. She decided to go in the pocket. I guess maybe she thought that would be a way to conserve energy, not having to move as much. But she was just essentially giving Fujioka the fight, in terms of, you know, she's giving her a way to win, because she wouldn't have been able to win on the boxing. But in the first couple of rounds, I would admit, Esparza was landing some good shots. I was surprised, but she did get hit with some really good shots as well. And I thought, okay, so this round you threw 1 or 2 good punches, but she threw one that basically like rocked you off center. So how does that really get scored? I mean, I had Fujioka winning at least 5 of those rounds, if I'm gonna be real. Well, at least 4. Like, there's an argument to say 5, personally. But I said in the previous video, just due to the upside that Esparza has, and the fact that obviously they want the rematch between her and Estrada at some point down the line, it doesn't really benefit them if she loses. And she did enough where you could say that she maybe nicked it by 1 round. A 96-94 is fair. A 95-95 to me would have been a bit more, you know, okay, in my opinion, to me personally. But then when I saw there was 2 cards that was 100-90, and then one that was 97-93, I knew instantly who had won that fight and exactly why they'd won that fight. So again, I know the commentary was up in arms about it as well, or at least, you know, sort of disgusted by the shoddiness of that, you know. But it's the same thing that happened with Hamadouche and Maya, like in that last occasion. So yeah, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I knew that Fujioka, unless she really put her on the ground a couple of times, was going to lose the fight. It's just a shame that it was such a nasty way to lose it, but hey, it happens. Now, the one fight that I was really wrong about this weekend, though, was Gabe Rosado and Shane Mosley Jr. I mean, I know that Gabe is a much better technical boxer than Shane is. Yeah, he's lost a lot more, but he loses to like the top guys, and Shane is not one of those. But I got to give credit to Shane. He executed the game plan he was given pretty much flawlessly. He boxed and chose to box, whereas Rosado was pretty much just looking for knockouts all fight, which then ended up opening him up to getting hurt quite a few times because he just wasn't being smart with his work. Yeah, he was just literally said this is one of the few times he was predicting a knockout, and because of that, ultimately I just feel like his performance suffered. But it'll be interesting to see where Shane Mosley Jr. goes from here. If he can get himself like maybe a title shot or a title eliminator or something. And we see what happens with Rosado moving forward. I mean, does he still want it? Is he still got the hunger? I mean, he can get good paydays, to be fair, because he's very much the Chisora of America. He'll still get paid well no matter how many losses he takes, because people know that he's going to come, he's going to bring it. He's got his own little cult following. He's got a nice analyst gig with the Zone as well. He's always doing the commentary and being a part of the hosting team. So yeah, there's life for him after boxing, but maybe it's time to hang it up. But hey, that's all down to him. See what he wants to do next. But I feel like if you're not beating Shane Mosley Jr., then there's not really a lot more left out there for you, personally. Then we go to the main event. Now, this one, I think I predicted that Ryan would win sort of, I think I said 10th. Like 10th round or something like that. I need to check back the video. But I thought he would sort of have it hard at the start of the fight, and then maybe just start sort of working and manage to get to go out of there towards the end. Now, ultimately, ended up kind of being a bit reversed. He had it a lot easier at the start when To-Go was more willing to sort of try and stick and trade with him, as opposed to when he started sort of moving, like throwing the shot, then falling in and going into the clinch, moving around the ring. Garcia looked very sort of slow-footed, bit cumbersome. I think the fight was made at a catch rate of 139, so yeah, you can tell they weren't trying to bring him back down to lightweight immediately. So realistically, you could say that this fight was being fought at super lightweight or light welter. But knocked down To-Go in the second round. To-Go was complaining about something. I don't quite know what, but Sergio. Yeah, so he went through, but towards sort of like the round 7, 8, 9, where I thought like, oh, To-Go, he got To-Go, I think it was in the 8th, I think it was in the 8th round. He managed to catch him. They were both throwing, and he managed to hit him on the side of the jaw, which wobbled him, and then To-Go basically held on for a period of time until he actually fell over, but the ref called it a no knockdown. But I think that's just because he had been holding on for so long. Any effects of the so-called punch at that point, the ref maybe thought wasn't wasn't a contributing factor. But he held on to him for at least like 15, it must have been 15, 20 seconds, somewhere along there anyway. But he managed to survive the rounds, and then even sort of rounds 9, 10, 11, he put it on Garcia a little bit. He landed some pretty good shots and had Garcia's defense looking all types of weird. It was one of those fights where you would expect the knockout, but you can kind of see that if the guy's there to survive at that point, and he's tough enough to do so, it is what it is. So while I did predict the knockout and ultimately that didn't happen, I did say Garcia was going to win. So yeah, I mean, look, it was a very fun night of boxing, or a fun day, I should say, because we had it from the start of Saturday all the way to the end. And it was, yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to be keen to be breaking down on Undefeated Podcast on Tuesday. So look out for that. We've got a lot of work to do to figure that one out. I'm gonna have a new episode of the Femme Files on Wednesday, possibly another episode of the Hardcore Casual dropping maybe Friday. I might even have two, because I might have to do another. Actually, no. Oh yeah, Spence Ugas. So yeah, there's gonna have to be a basis picks Friday as well. So yeah, I've got a few things to work out. Maybe I might drop something else as well. So we'll see. Maybe I might have to do 2 videos on Wednesday. Who knows? But yeah, that's pretty much it for this weekend. It was a good one. I enjoyed it. There's a few other things I need to address in a different video, so I will do so. For now though, thanks everyone for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.